Captain Jake Morrison rubbed his tired eyes as he walked across the bridge of the UEC Defender. 3 months of deep space patrol had worn down his crew, but they were professionals. They knew their job was to watch the empty darkness between stars and report anything unusual back to Earth Command. The ship hummed quietly around them as it moved through the void. Outside the thick windows, stars sparkled like diamonds against black velvet. It was beautiful, but after seeing the same view for weeks, even beauty became boring. Lieutenant Amy Carter sat at her communication station, listening to the usual background noise of space. Radio waves from distant stars, cosmic radiation, and the occasional automated beacon from mining operations. Nothing exciting ever happened out here in the frontier zones. Then her console started beeping. Amy frowned and adjusted her headset. The signal was weak, but definitely artificial. Someone or something was transmitting on multiple frequencies at once. She had never heard anything like it before. "Captain," she called out, her voice cutting through the quiet bridge chatter. "I'm picking up an unknown transmission. It's not from any human source." Jake turned toward her station, feeling his heart rate increase. In 30 years of space service, he had never heard those words before. Unknown transmissions meant only one thing: they were not alone in the universe. "Put it on speakers," he ordered, moving to stand behind Amy's chair. The bridge fell silent as crackling static filled the air. Behind the noise, they could hear something else. It sounded like voices, but speaking in a language no human had ever heard. The rhythm was wrong. The sounds too complex for human vocal cords to make. Dr. Helen Brooks rushed onto the bridge from her laboratory. As the ship's expert on languages and communication, she had been monitoring the transmission feeds from her workstation below. Her face was pale with excitement and fear. "Captain, this is definitely an alien signal," she said, breathless from running. "The mathematical patterns in the transmission suggest high intelligence. They're using prime numbers as a base structure, which means they understand advanced mathematics." Jake felt the weight of history settling on his shoulders. First, contact with an alien species was supposed to happen slowly, carefully, with teams of experts and diplomats. Not like this, with a tired patrol ship in the middle of nowhere. "Can you decode what they're saying?" he asked. Helen was already working at Amy's station, her fingers flying over the controls. "The ship's computer is analyzing the patterns now. Give me a few minutes." Commander Ryan Phillips appeared at Jake's side. His second-in-command looked worried, which made sense. Unknown alien transmissions could mean many things, and most of them were dangerous. "Sir, should we report this to Earth Command immediately?" Ryan asked quietly. Jake considered the question. The signal was weak, which meant whoever was sending it was far away. If they reported it now, it would take days for orders to come back from Earth. By then, the transmission might be gone forever. Not yet, Jake decided. Let's find out what they're trying to say first. Minutes passed like hours as Helen worked with the computer systems. The alien voices continued their strange song across the darkness of space. Sometimes the signal grew stronger. Sometimes it faded almost to nothing. Whoever was transmitting was either moving or their equipment was failing. Finally, Helen looked up from her work. Her face was grim. "Captain, I've got a partial translation. It's a distress call." The bridge became even quieter than before. Jake felt ice forming in his stomach. A distress call meant someone was in trouble. But who? And from what? "Show me," he said. Helen transferred her work to the main screen. Alien symbols appeared alongside their English translations. The message was broken and incomplete, but the meaning was clear enough. "Help us. Home world under attack. Population dying. Coordinates follow. Please respond if anyone receives this message." Jake stared at the screen for a long moment. Somewhere, out in the galaxy, An entire alien civilization was crying for help. They were broadcasting their location and begging anyone who could hear them to come to their aid. "There's more, Captain," Helen continued. "They call themselves the Zephyrians. Their home system is approximately 47 light years from here, and according to this data, they've been transmitting this message for over 6 months. 6 months of calling for help with no response." Jake tried to imagine the desperation that would drive a species to keep broadcasting into the void, hoping against hope that someone would hear them. What kind of attack? Ryan asked the question. They were all thinking. Helen worked on the translation for several more minutes before answering. "They mention another species called the Krolix Dominion. From what I can understand, the Krolix have been conquering star systems across the galaxy for hundreds of years. The Zephyrians are just their latest target." The weight of the situation hit everyone on the bridge at the same time. They were listening to a genocide in progress. An entire species was being wiped out while they stood here in the safety of their human ship. "Captain," Amy said suddenly, "the signal is getting stronger. I think they're repeating the message and boosting the power." New information began appearing. On the screen, the Zephyrians were transmitting technical data about their attackers. Ship designs, weapon specifications, and tactical information about the Krolix fleet that was destroying their world. Dr. Brooks studied the new data with growing alarm. "Captain, look at this. The Krolix aren't just attacking the Zephyrians. According to these records, they've conquered 43 different star systems. They're building an empire by destroying everyone who gets in their way." Jake looked at the tactical displays showing Krolix warships. The vessels were massive, clearly designed for planetary bombardment rather than space-to-space combat. These were not explorers or traders. They were conquerors. "How long do the Zephyrians have?" he asked. Helen checked the timestamp on the most recent message. "Based on their reports, the Krolix will finish their attack in less than 72 hours. After that, there won't be anyone left to send distress calls." A bridge fell silent again as everyone absorbed this information. 47 light years away, an entire world was about to die, and Earth had no idea any of this was happening. Jake made his decision. "Amy, open a channel to Earth Command. Priority Alpha transmission." "Yes, sir," Amy replied, her hands all ready, moving over her controls. "What are you going to tell them, Captain?" Ryan asked. Jake looked at the alien text still scrolling across his screen. Somewhere in the darkness, people were dying while calling for help that might never come. But Earth would know about it. And maybe, just maybe, they could do something about it. "I'm going to tell them that humanity just received its first alien distress call," Jake said firmly, "and that we have less than 3 days to decide what kind of species we want to be." Admiral Lisa Harper stared at the holographic display floating above the conference table in Earth Command's emergency briefing room. The alien transmission data glowed in blue light, showing ship designs and tactical information that proved humanity was not alone in the universe. More importantly, it proved they were not alone in a very dangerous galaxy. Around the circular table sat the most powerful people on Earth. President John Walker represented the civilian government, while General Peter Kane spoke for the military. Dr. Susan Martinez, Earth's top scientist, studied the alien data with intense focus. Representatives from every major nation filled the remaining seats, their faces showing mixtures of wonder, fear, and determination. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," President Walker said, his voice steady despite the historic nature of the moment. "An alien species called the Zephyrians is being destroyed by another alien species called the Krolix Dominion. The Zephyrians sent out a distress call that one of our patrol ships received by accident." "That's correct, Mr. President," Admiral Harper replied. Captain Morrison's ship, the UES Defender, intercepted the transmission approximately 6 hours ago. Our linguists have been working around the clock to translate the complete message. Dr. Martinez looked up from her datapad. The information the Zephyrians included is remarkable. They've given us detailed scans of Krolek's technology, ship designs, and tactical capabilities. It's as if they wanted whoever found their message to understand exactly what they were facing. General Kane manipulated the holographic display, zooming in on the Krolek ship designs. The vessels were enormous, some over 3 kilometers long. Their hulls bristled with weapons designed for one purpose: destroying planets and everyone living on them. The Krolek's dominion has been expanding across the galaxy for over 300 years, General Kane explained. According to the Zephyrian data, they've conquered 43 star systems. That represents billions of lives lost or enslaved. The room fell quiet as everyone absorbed this information. Earth had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they knew the answer, and it was terrifying. Not only were they not alone, but there was an empire out there that specialized in wiping out entire civilizations. What do we know about their military capabilities compared to ours? Asked Minister Chun, representing the Asian Federation. Dr. Martinez brought up new displays showing technical comparisons. Their technology is more advanced than ours in some areas, particularly energy weapons and ship armor. However, our analysis suggests they've become overconfident. They expect easy victories against primitive species. They've never faced organized resistance from a united planet. Are you suggesting we could actually fight them? Asked Chancellor Mueller from the European Union. I'm suggesting we might have advantages they don't expect, Dr. Martinez replied. Human military doctrine emphasizes adaptability and creative tactics. The Kroleks appear to rely on overwhelming force and intimidation. Those are weaknesses we can exploit. Admiral Harper activated another display showing Earth's current military assets. The list was impressive, but seemed small compared to the Krolek's fleet data. 230 space-capable vessels, ranging from massive battleships to small patrol craft. The Mars shipyards were producing new ships, but slowly. The lunar defense platforms were powerful but stationary. If we decide to intervene, Admiral Harper continued, we'll need to mobilize everything. Every ship, every weapon, every resource Earth has available. This won't be a limited engagement. If we attack the Kroleks, we'll be declaring war on their entire empire. President Walker leaned back in his chair, considering the enormous decision before them. How long do the Zephyrians have? Less than 60 hours, General Kane answered. Grimly, the Kroleks are preparing to glass their homeworld. Once that happens, there won't be anyone left to save. The debate that followed was intense but surprisingly brief. Representative Davis from the African Union spoke first. My continent knows what it means to face a stronger enemy. We also know that sometimes you have to fight even when the odds are against you. Ambassador Petrov from the Russian Federation nodded in agreement. The human spirit has never accepted tyranny quietly. We didn't survive as a species by backing down from bullies. But the risk, protested Minister Tanaka from Japan. If we fail, Earth itself could become a target. We could be dooming our own people to save strangers. Dr. Martinez stood up, her eyes blazing with determination. The Zephyrians aren't strangers anymore. They reached out to us in their darkest hour. They trusted us with their location, their technology, their hope. If we turn our backs on them now, what does that say about who we are as a species? General Kane activated a new display showing fleet movement calculations. We've been running scenarios since the transmission arrived. If we launch within 12 hours, we can reach the Zephyrian system with enough time to make a difference. But we'll need every available ship. What about Earth's defenses? Asked President Walker. We'll be taking a calculated risk, Admiral. Harper admitted. The Kroleks don't know about us yet. But if we reveal ourselves by attacking them, they'll eventually come looking for us. We need to be ready for that." The room erupted in discussions as representatives consulted with their governments via secure channels. Earth had faced many crises before, but never one like this. They were being asked to risk everything for people they had never met, fighting an enemy they had never seen, in a war they didn't start. President Walker called for order after 30 minutes of debate. "The question before us is simple. Do we stand by and watch genocide happen when we have the power to prevent it? Or do we take action knowing the risks?" The vote was taken by secret ballot to prevent political pressure. Admiral Harper collected the results and counted them twice before announcing the outcome. "The motion passes unanimously," she said, her voice carrying across the suddenly quiet room. "Earth will mobilize its entire fleet to assist the Zephyrians." The next few hours transformed the planet into a hive of activity. Every spaceport on Earth, Mars, and the Moon began preparing ships for immediate departure. The civilian spacecraft. Manufacturers switched to military production. The asteroid mining vessels were recalled and fitted with weapons. Even the scientific research ships were equipped with tactical systems. Captain Morrison received new orders while his ship was still in deep space. The U's Defender would lead the advanced scout force, arriving at the Zephyrian system ahead of the main fleet to assess the situation and establish contact with any survivors. Dr. Brooks worked frantically to prepare translation protocols that would allow real-time communication with the Zephyrians. If they were going to save these people, they needed to be able to coordinate with them. Admiral Harper took command of the largest military operation in human history from the bridge of the UES Retribution, Earth's newest and most powerful battleship. Around her, 230 vessels prepared for hyperspace jump. Some crews were veteran military personnel. Others were civilian volunteers who had answered the call to defend innocent life. As the fleet prepared to depart, President Walker transmitted a message that would be remembered for generations. Today, humanity takes its first step onto the galactic stage. We go not as conquerors, but as defenders. We go to prove that some things are worth fighting for, no matter the cost. We go to show the universe that Earth stands for freedom. The hyperspace jump began exactly 12 hours after the first vote. Earth's entire fleet vanished into the void, racing toward a distant star system where the fate of two species would be decided in the darkness between worlds. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system like a swarm of angry hornets. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UE's Defender, watching as 230 Earth vessels materialized around his ship. Behind them, space itself seemed to bend and twist as the massive UES Retribution emerged from the void with Admiral Harper at its helm. What they found waiting for them was worse than anyone had imagined. The Zephyrian home system was a battlefield. Massive Krolix dreadnoughts hung in orbit around the blue-green planet like vultures around a dying animal. Smaller Krolix vessels darted between the larger ships, hunting down any Zephyrian craft that tried to escape. In the distance, Jake could see the burning wrecks of what had once been orbital stations and defense platforms. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Amy Carter from her communication station. "Look at the planet." Jake turned his attention to the main view screen. The Zephyrian homeworld was scarred with impact craters where Krolix weapons had struck the surface. Entire continents glowed with the orange light of massive fires. The northern ice cap was completely gone, melted by directed energy. Weapons. This wasn't a military conquest. This was the systematic destruction of an entire world. "Captain Morrison," Admiral Harper's voice crackled over the communication system. "Take your squadron and begin rescue operations. All civilian ships have priority. We'll handle the Krolix fleet. Jake nodded to his crew. The U's Defender was fast and maneuverable, perfect for getting close to the planet and pulling survivors out of the chaos. Around him, his bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, despite the horror they were witnessing. Amy, try to contact any surviving Zephyrians. Tell them help has arrived. Yes, sir, Amy replied, her fingers dancing over her controls, broadcasting on all frequencies in their language. The Krolix fleet noticed the human arrival immediately. The nearest dreadnought, a massive vessel over 2 miles long, turned its weapons toward the approaching Earthships. Jake had seen the technical specifications, but seeing one of these monsters in person made his blood run cold. Then, Lieutenant Colonel Beth Turer's fighter squadron streaked past the bridge windows like arrows of light and steel. Phoenix leader to all wings. Beth's voice filled the communication channels. Remember what we're fighting for today. Those are innocent people down there, and we're the only thing standing between them and extinction. The first dogfight in human history between 2 different species began as Beth led her fighters straight into the Krolix formation. The alien pilots were skilled, but they had never faced anything like human fighter tactics. Earth's pilots had learned their skills in the asteroid fields and debris clouds around Mars. They could fly through spaces that should have been impossible to navigate. Jake watched through his view screen as human fighters danced between Krolix. Energy beams, their smaller size and superior maneuverability, giving them advantages the enemy hadn't expected. One by one, Krolix interceptors began exploding as human pilots found weak spots in their armor and exploited them with surgical precision. Captain, Dr. Helen Brooks called from her station. I'm receiving transmissions from the planet's surface. There are Zephyrian survivors in the southern continent. They're requesting immediate evacuation. Set course for the planet, Jake ordered. Full speed. The UE sender raced toward the burning world, dodging energy blasts from Krolix orbital platforms. Behind them, Admiral Harper's battle fleet engaged the main enemy force in a massive space battle that lit up the darkness with explosions and laser fire. As they entered the planet's atmosphere, Jake got his first look at the Zephyrian people. The evacuation site was a refugee camp hidden in a mountain valley. Thousands of beings waited on improvised landing platforms, their tall, slender forms moving with desperate urgency. They looked almost human, but their skin had a blue-green tint, and their eyes were larger and more expressive. The first Zephyrian to board the UES Defender was a female who introduced herself as Engineer Kavanine. She spoke broken English, learned from monitoring Earth's radio transmissions over the years. You came, she said, tears flowing down her alien face. We called for help, and you came. We always come, Jake replied, helping her into the ship. That's what humans do. As the rescue operation continued, Jake learned more about the Krolix. Attack. The aliens had arrived 6 months ago with demands for immediate surrender. When the Zephyrians refused, the bombardment began. City after city had been reduced to rubble. Millions were dead or missing. They said we were primitive, Kavanine explained as her people filled the ship's cargo bays. They said resistance was futile. They have conquered 43 worlds this way. Well, they haven't met humans before, Commander Ryan Phillips said, grimly as he coordinated the evacuation. We have a saying on Earth: the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. The space battle above them intensified as more human ships arrived from their patrol positions throughout the system. Captain Kate Lewis led a squadron of heavy cruisers in a direct assault on the largest Krolix dreadnought. Her ships were smaller and less heavily armed, but they fought with a fury that seemed to confuse the enemy. Staff Sergeant Nicole Green led the first human boarding party in galactic history when her Marines breached the hull of a damaged Krolix vessel. What they found inside horrified them. The ship contained thousands of enslaved beings from dozens of different species, all being transported to work camps in other systems. "Captain," Nicole reported over the radio as her team freed the prisoners. "These monsters have been doing this for centuries. This isn't just war. This is industrial-scale slavery and genocide." The revelation spread through the human fleet like wildfire. Every crew member now understood exactly what they were fighting against. The Krolloks weren't just enemies. They were everything humanity had always stood against. Jake's ship was now packed with Zephyrian refugees when the communication system crackled with an incoming message. It was from the Krolloks' fleet commander, transmitted in broken English. "Primitive species," the alien voice hissed. "You interfere in Krolloks' business. Withdraw now or face destruction." Admiral Harper's response echoed across every human ship in the system. "This is Admiral Lisa Harper of the United Earth Fleet. You are the ones who will face destruction. You came here to commit genocide against innocent people. That ends today." The battle reached its climax as human ships swarmed the remaining Krolloks vessels like wolves attacking a herd of buffalo. The aliens had superior technology and larger ships, but they had never faced an enemy that refused to give up. Every time they destroyed a human vessel, two more took its place. Every time they thought they had gained an advantage, human tactics shifted and adapted. Captain Morrison watched from the bridge as the last Krolloks dreadnought tried to escape the system. It was too late. Commander Phillips had anticipated the retreat and positioned ships to block every escape route. "Sir," Amy reported, monitoring enemy communications. "The Krolloks are transmitting a distress call of their own. They're calling for reinforcements." Jake smiled grimly as he looked at the rescued Zephyrians filling his ship. For the first time in 6 months, these people had hope in their eyes instead of despair. "Let them call," he said. "Earth is ready for whatever comes next." The first battle was over, but Jake knew this was only the beginning. Somewhere in the galaxy, the Krolloks Dominion was learning that they had awakened something they should have left sleeping. They had met humanity, and humanity was not impressed. 3 weeks after the battle at Kepler 442, every human in the solar system knew their lives had changed forever. The rescued Zephyrians worked alongside Earth's engineers, sharing technology and preparing for what everyone knew was coming. The Krolloks Dominion would not ignore the destruction of their fleet. They would come to Earth with everything they had. Admiral Lisa Harper stood in the command center on Luna Base, watching the final preparations. The moon's surface bristled with new weapons designed using combined human and Zephyrian technology. Mars had been turned into a fortress, its orbital platforms equipped with energy shields that could stop planet-killing beams. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter now contained thousands of automated defense mines, each one capable of destroying a ship. Captain Jake Morrison commanded the outer defense fleet from his flagship, the newly constructed UES Vengeance. Around him floated 200 human vessels, reinforced by 30 Zephyrian ships that had escaped their home system. It wasn't much compared to what was coming, but every crew member was ready to die defending Earth. The waiting ended when long range sensors detected the largest fleet in galactic history dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. "Contact," reported Lieutenant Amy Carter from her station. 5,000 Krolloks vessels entering the system. Estimated time to Earth orbit is 6 hours. Jake studied the tactical display with growing amazement. The Krolloks had brought their entire military force to destroy one small planet. Massive dreadnoughts led the formation, each one larger than Earth's biggest cities. Behind them came planet killers, ships designed for one purpose, turning worlds into lifeless rocks. At the center of the alien armada flew a vessel that dwarfed everything around it. The ship was over 10 miles long, covered in weapons and armor that gleamed like black metal in the starlight. That must be their flagship, Commander Ryan Phillips said quietly. Intel says their Emperor leads the fleet personally. On Luna Base, Admiral Harper opened communication channels to every human ship and defense platform in the solar system. Her voice carried to millions of people watching from Earth below. People of Earth, this is Admiral Harper. Today we face the greatest threat our species has ever known. The Krolix Empire has come to destroy us for daring to save innocent lives. They expect us to surrender or die quietly, like every other species they have conquered. They are about to learn why that will never happen. The Krolix fleet moved through space like a slow-moving storm of death. As they passed Neptune, then Uranus, human observers could see the sheer scale of the enemy force. There were so many ships that they blocked out the stars behind them. Engineer Kava 9 worked frantically in Earth's command center alongside Dr. Susan Martinez. The Zephyrian had become humanity's closest ally, sharing every secret of her peoples. Technology to help defend their new home. As shield generators are ready, Kava 9 reported. But they have never been tested against this much firepower. Dr. Martinez nodded grimly. If our calculations are wrong, this will be a very short battle. The first exchange of fire came when the Krolix fleet reached Jupiter. Long-range sensors detected massive energy signatures as the enemy began charging their most powerful weapons. They intended to destroy Earth from a distance, burning away the atmosphere and boiling the oceans. That was when Emperor Vorthok, the destroyer, made his mistake. The alien ruler opened communication channels to Earth, his voice filled with arrogance and contempt. Primitive humans, you have interfered with Krolix's destiny for the last time. Surrender now, and some of your species may survive as slaves. Resist, and we will turn your world into a monument to Krolix's power. Admiral Harper's response was broadcast to the entire galaxy. Unknown vessel, you are entering human space without permission. This is your only warning. Turn around and leave, or face the consequences. Emperor Vorthok's laughter echoed across space. You dare threaten the Krolix Dominion? Your pathetic fleet will be destroyed in minutes. Watch as we demonstrate true power. The Emperor's flagship fired its main weapon directly at Earth. The planet killer being was powerful enough to crack continents and boil oceans. It raced across space at the speed of light, carrying enough energy to end human civilization in a single blast. The beam struck Earth's atmosphere and simply vanished. The combined human Zephyrian shield generators had absorbed the entire attack and redirected the energy back toward the Krolix fleet. The reflected beam struck 3 enemy dreadnoughts, vaporizing them instantly. The explosion was so bright it could be seen from Mars without telescopes. On his flagship, Emperor Vorthok stared at his instruments in disbelief. Impossible. No primitive species has that technology. Perhaps they are not as primitive as you believed, his tactical officer suggested nervously. The Emperor's response was to order the entire fleet to open fire on Earth simultaneously. If one planet killer beam wasn't enough, then 5,000 would surely do the job. That was when Captain Kate Lewis led the Luna Defense Fleet in their desperate gambit. 50 human ships, loaded with experimental quantum warheads, launched themselves directly at the Krolix formation. They had no hope of survival, but survival wasn't the point. The point was to disrupt the enemy attack long enough for Earth's defenses to respond. Kate's voice filled the communication channels as her ships raced toward certain death. This is Luna Defense Squadron. We're going in. Tell our families we chose to stand. The quantum warheads detonated throughout the Krolix fleet like miniature stars. Each explosion created a temporary black hole that consumed everything within 1,000 miles. Dozens of enemy ships vanished in brilliant flashes of light, but the real masterstroke came from Captain Morrison and his fleet. While the Krolix were focused on Earth, Jake led every remaining human ship in a coordinated attack on their flagship. Using a tactic that would be remembered for 1,000 years, the human fleet accelerated to faster-than-light speed and rammed Emperor Vorthic's vessel directly. The collision created an explosion that could be seen from neighboring star systems. The massive Krolyk's flagship broke apart like glass, taking their Emperor and half the enemy fleet with it. The surviving Krolyk ships, leaderless and demoralized, tried to retreat, but Admiral Harper had anticipated this. Human ships emerged from hiding places throughout the solar system, cutting off every escape route. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the Krolyk's Dominion's military power was broken forever. Scattered survivors limped away into deep space, carrying news of their defeat to the remaining Krolyk's worlds in the aftermath, as rescue ships searched for survivors among the debris. Admiral Harper transmitted a message that changed galactic history. "This is Admiral Lisa Harper, speaking for the people of Earth and our Zephyrian allies. Let this battle serve as notice to every species in the galaxy. The age of conquest and slavery is ending. Any world that calls for help will find humanity ready to answer. Any tyrant who threatens innocent life will face our fury." The message was picked up by dozens of species throughout the galaxy. Within months, the Terran Alliance was formed as enslaved worlds rose up against their oppressors. The Krolyk's Dominion collapsed as their conquered subjects realized that resistance was possible. Captain Morrison, now promoted to Admiral, established the first human embassy on the Zephyrian colony world of New Hope. As he watched human and alien children playing together in the settlement's parks, he reflected on how much had changed since that first distress call. Engineer Kava 9 approached him as he stood watching the sunset over the alien landscape. "Admiral Morrison," she said, in perfect English, learned during the months of working with humans. "My people have a saying. When the darkness seems complete, look for the light of those who refuse to surrender." Jake smiled as he watched a human child teaching a young Zephyrian how to throw a baseball. "We have a similar saying on Earth. When good people do nothing, evil wins. But when good people stand together, nothing can stop them." Across the galaxy, the message of Earth's victory spread from world to world. Humanity had proven that even the mightiest empire could be defeated by those willing to fight for freedom. The age of the Krolyks was over. The age of the Terran Alliance had begun, and in the depths of space, human ships continued their patrols, ready to answer the next call for help.